Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Rihanna and here on Reread It, I review, discuss, and summarize books that I absolutely love and would reread again. So today's book is one that I absolutely loved so much. I feel that this book was life-changing for me. It is The Iodine Crisis by Lynn Farrow. This is the book here. So a bit of backstory on how I stumbled across this book. I actually went to the doctor for a general checkup and they found a lump in one of my breasts. And being that I was just 25 at the time, they figured that it could not be anything too serious, but they sent me to get an ultrasound done just to double check it. So following the ultrasound, they determined that it was a cyst and that I have fibrocystic breast tissue. So I immediately started doing research on this topic and discovered that fibrocystic breast tissue is actually fairly common in American women today. However, just because something is common does not mean that it is normal. So as I went on my journey of researching, I came across this book, I believe on a YouTube video, if I'm not mistaken. A man was talking about iodine and someone in the comments had recommended this book there. Now, don't get me wrong, I do believe that modern medicine has its place in society, but for me personally, I try to do things more alternatively or holistically when possible. So following my ultrasound result, I immediately started researching and decided I would actually give this book a try just to see what information it had in there. For me personally, like I was saying, this book was life-changing for me. I found the information in this book to be so helpful, and I really hope that if you're someone that has any kind of iodine deficiency, that you really read this book and look into it as well, because it might change your life also. So as you can see, I have my laptop set up here today because I went ahead and jotted down some notes so that I make sure to stay on track and discuss everything that I want to share with you guys about this book. And I'm also going to read you guys some pieces of the book that I have noted down here also. So I'm going to start with a brief summary of the book as a whole, and then I'll go ahead and break down a couple more pieces more in depth. So overall, I felt that Lynn did a really great job of providing information and research-based studies, as well as personal testimonials and testimonials from other people that have benefited from iodine as well. So she begins the book with discussing how her life was before iodine, and her daily life was a really tough struggle for her. She had constant brain fog, really bad fatigue, and she just felt kind of bleh all the time. She didn't really feel like herself, so she started going to as many doctors as she could, looking for an answer to why she felt this way. As she went to these different doctors, they would prescribe her different things or give her alternatives to try. However, none of them seemed to really be fixing her root issue. So she decided to take matters into her own hands and begin doing her own research. And that's when she started going to various medical conventions, talking to other doctors, going to libraries, and at one of the medical conventions she went to, a doctor actually recommended that she go ahead and check out iodine. And from there, her research obsession with iodine began, and that is how this book came to be. On her research journey, she discovers a lot of history about iodine, what it was used for, how long ago it was used, when did it show up in history, when did it disappear from history, because as you know today, a lot of us don't know much about iodine or its uses or benefits or anything about it really. You don't see it very frequently anymore in today's society. So she discovered that ancient civilizations would actually use seaweed as their source of iodine for healing in their communities. And not only did she discover that it was used by ancient civilizations, but she also discovered it was used by our current civilizations, that is, until two doctors by the names of Dr. Wolf and Dr. Chaikoff experimented on some lab rats and released an article to the public. Now, when they released this article about how iodine affected lab rats, it went unverified and unchallenged for decades. The information that they published in this article severely impacted the medical community for up to 3 generations, meaning that 3 generations worth of doctors that went through medical school and medical training were not given proper information about iodine and its uses and benefits for our bodies. And this is because iodine was no longer being seen as a mineral that our body needs, but it was deemed dangerous. If you'd like to look more into this article and this study that the Dr. Chaikoff and Dr. Wolf released, I would highly recommend researching the Wolf-Chaikoff effect. This gives great information about exactly what they did and how it affected society. However, thankfully, after many decades, another doctor by the name of Dr. Guy Abraham came along and decided to challenge the information that was released by these two doctors, and he actually ended up beginning a revolution for bringing iodine back into our society. Dr. Abraham's work led to a plethora of other doctors and average people beginning their own research into iodine and how it affects our body, what it's used for, and even its benefits for us. His work also showed just how big of a negative effect the Dr. Wolf and Chaikoff experiment had on our society. So as these doctors and people that were doing research came together, they formed research groups, medical conventions, and websites to share and grow the knowledge that they found about iodine. While they are still working really hard today to get the truth out there about iodine and its benefits for us, there have already been thousands of people that have been able to experience the benefits and life-changing effects of iodine thanks to people like Lynn Farrow, who provide resources and even wrote this book. Okay, now let's get into my favorite parts about this book. I really enjoyed this book as a whole. However, for the sake of this video, I'm going to try to just pick two of my favorite things about this book. So for starters, I would say one of my favorite things about this book is that she provides testimonials from real people in the book that have benefited from using iodine. It was really interesting for me to read these people's testimonials and see just how dramatically their lives were changed by reading this book, finding this information, and implementing it into their everyday lives. And my second favorite thing about this book, I would say, is that she provides a lot of research and resources in this book. I find that oftentimes with a lot of the medical books that I read or books that relate to health, they provide a lot of information in the book. However, they don't provide a lot of resources to look into after you've read the book. So for her, she provides websites, groups, and even a resource list in the book. She also gives great directions on how to start taking iodine, what to expect when you start taking iodine, and she also gives you a resource of how to find iodine literate practitioners near you that can help you implement iodine into your life safely as well. Okay, for this next section of the video, this is pieces of the book that I picked out that I wanted to read to you guys. It was really hard for me to pick just a couple pieces to read, but I tried to pick the ones that I felt stood out the most, and hopefully these will pique your interest a little bit. So I did pick out the sections ahead of time, and I have them written down here on my computer, so I'm just going to go ahead and read them from here to you guys. And I'll also include the page numbers in case you decide to purchase the book. You can flip through and find exactly where I'm talking about. So let's start with this one here from page 36. Originally, we thought iodine must be helping the thyroid because that was the main gland known for storing iodine. Since every cell in the body contains iodine, we can't know the mechanism of action. The only way to define what makes an iodine deficiency is by listing what symptoms iodine has benefited. In developing countries, iodine deficiency is the leading cause of goiter and mental retardation. A partial list of conditions we've seen that are helped by iodine are, and I'll go ahead and list them here on the screen for you because the list is quite long, and this was just the ones that they knew about at the time that the book was written, so there could be more by the time you're seeing this video. Moving on to the next one, this is from page 97. What does bromine have to do with iodine deficiency? Iodine deficiency may be partly a bromide dominance disease, meaning an underlying cause of iodine deficiency may be that we are exposed to so much bromine-related chemicals through our environment, bromine has bullied what little iodine we have in our diet off of the receptors. So what she means here by off of the receptors, she goes into it more in depth in the book, but I'm just going to provide a little context. So the receptors for iodine and bromide are the same. So if you have a bromide dominance, that means you will have an iodine deficiency because they battle for the same receptors in our body. Okay, so moving on to the next one. This is from page 118. If we go back to prehistoric times, archaeological excavation tells the story of how much iodine-rich seaweeds were used as both food and medicines. Archaeological sites reveal exactly how healers practiced seaweed medicine. Its use stretched into the far distant past. Long before iodine was isolated and discovered as an element in 1811, before the 1811 French records show iodine was extracted from seaweed, before the 3,000-year-old Chinese herbal manual Pen Sao, before the Egyptian Ebers medical papyrus, and before the recorded Ayurvedic medicine of India. So this next story that I'm going to share from the book is probably my absolute favorite part of the book. I just found this story to be so inspiring, and I think that the work that the doctor and his colleagues did for this community is just incredible. He completely changed the lives of this community till this day, and they went to this community, I believe, in the 90s. And to this day, this community in China is still benefiting from the work that they've done. Okay, so this is from pages 133 and 134. Many countries and areas are devastated by iodine deficiency. In 1996, China was estimated to have 10 million people suffering from mental retardation because of iodine deficiency in the soil. In 1989, when neurologist Dr. G. Robert DeLong visited the rural Chinese province of Xinjiang, mental retardation was severe. Other disabilities also prevailed, such as miscarriages, high infant mortality, stunted growth, deafness, and stillbirths. Dr. DeLong and his colleagues explored and rejected many solutions for getting iodine to the people. Finally, Dr. DeLong looked at irrigation ditches and wondered if iodine could be dripped into the water. That way, the plants would absorb the iodine, the animals would eat the plants, and the people on top of the food chain would get enough iodine. Dr. DeLong and his colleagues rigged a common 55-gallon oil drum on top of a rickety bridge that crossed the irrigation canal and provided a steady drip into the water. A year later, infant mortality dropped by half, sheep production increased 40%, stillborn animals and miscarriage were reduced by 50%, the average 5-year-old's height increased by 4 inches, and the average intelligence of children born after the irrigation project increased 16 IQ points. So to me, this story was just crazy. The results that they saw are incredible, and that was only after a year. So think of the benefits that the community is seeing as each generation progressively got better and better. Okay, you guys, that is it for today's summary video. I really hope that you found something in this video to be interesting. If you are someone that might be struggling with an iodine deficiency related issue, I really wish you the best on your healing journey, and just know that it is possible to heal. So overall, The Iodine Crisis by Lynn Farrell was a great book, and I would definitely reread it again. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!